Hey, welcome to the Media Maker. I am Dr. Dave Harris, and I'm happy to be joining you today. I'm going to be using a great tool today called Photoshop. And if you're not familiar with Photoshop, where have you been? Because this is a great tool for using images, for rehashing images, for fixing up images, blemish removal, stuff like that. In fact, blemish removal is what we're going to do today. Go ahead and join me right here on the screen. So I have this image of this young man, and this young man has a few blemishes. We'll call them blemishes, right? That's what they are. We won't use any nasty name for them. There's a few tools that we can use for blemish removal. One of my favorites is over here. It's the Spot Healing Brush tool. If we click on the Spot Healing Brush tool, we're presented with a round tool. But I'll tell you what, we need to practice good Facebook etiquette. Whoa, Facebook etiquette, where am I? Photoshop etiquette. We got to practice good Photoshop etiquette. I'm going to start a new layer because we do not want to affect the background pixels on this layer. So I'll click New Layer, and I'm going to just call it Blemish Removal. By doing that, I'm not affecting the background layer. I can come back to it, fix things up as needed. So I've got the blemish removal layer selected. And then I also want to make sure that with the spot healing brush that I have the sample all layers checkbox checked. Otherwise, we'll only be sampling this layer and there's no information on this layer right now. It's totally transparent. So right now I'm going to use a shortcut to enlarge and decrease the size of my brush. It's the right and left square brackets on the keyboard. As I push the right square bracket, you can see it makes the brush larger. As I push the left square bracket, it makes the brush smaller. I'm also going to zoom in. I'm going to use a shortcut for that as well, Command plus sign, because I'm using a Mac. If you're using a PC, it's going to be Control plus sign. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make the brush diameter just a little bit larger than each of these blemishes. So I'm going to center the brush right here. Just a single click. You can see Photoshop does something magical. It samples the pixels in the area that I've got underneath the brush, and it then uses the outside diameter of the brush to determine what you should do or what should be there if that blemish wasn't there. So if I push the button over here, goodbye. If I see some of these, I don't know what these are called, blackheads maybe, something like that, we can see we can just very easily, with a single mouse click, we can get rid of these. This will really help to really fix up this guy's skin. Now, I'm the kind of person that says if something's temporary, let's get rid of it. There's a lot of talk about body image these days, things like that. Things like zits to me are, or blemishes if you will, those things to me are temporary and not really a part of us. Now things like moles or freckles, I'm the kind of person that says let's leave those, that's a permanent aspect of a part of us. But these zits, let's get rid of them. So yeah, back here on the screen, we'll go ahead and we'll just get rid of a few more. And I want to show you another area of this young man that might need a little work. If I scroll now, I'm just using my mouse scroll wheel to scroll around this image. And we see right here in his right nostril, we've got just this little bit of probably a nose hair, I'm sure, something like that. So we do need to get rid of that. Now, the spot healing brush may not be the best tool for us. Let me show you. As I click on that, you can see I end up with that little tiny, I'm going to zoom in even a little bit more. I end up with kind of this weird looking kind of drag mark here. That's because the spot healing brush is doing its best to determine which pixels are around it, but it may not be the best for what we need it to do. I'm going to go ahead and undo it by hitting Command Z, or if you're using a PC, it's going to be Control Z. I'm going to use another tool that is very popular in Photoshop. It's the clone stamp tool. It's over here, it looks like an ink stamp. Shortcut for it is the S key on the keyboard. S as in stamp. With this tool, what we need to do is we need to sample an area of the image, and effectively we're just going to copy that area of the image to another part of the image, just the size of the brush though. So the first thing I need to do is I need to tell Photoshop where I want to sample from. So I do that by holding the Option key on the Mac, or if you're using a PC, the alternate key. And we know that this area, let me just use my pointer, this area right here, if this little hair wasn't here, we would have kind of this dark, shadowy area. So we need to sample an area that has this dark, shadowy area. And I'm thinking right up in this area, we've got this perfect shadow, and we also have a little bit of this line of nostril that we could use if needed. So I'll go back to the stamp tool, and I'm going to reduce the size of the tool by using my left square bracket. I'm going to hold down the alternate key, and I'm just going to sample just with a single click. What I've told Photoshop to do is I'm saying, all right, we're going to take one area of the image and I'm going to tell you where I want to copy from. And I use the alternate key or the option key to do that. And then Photoshop remembers that area of the image. So as I then move over to another area of the image and I use the tool without the alternate key, it's essentially going to take what was here and just copy it over there. And as I move the brush around, it'll kind of follow along kind of in this way, which is really kind of a cool thing to do. Back on here, I'll go ahead and just hold the alternate key down, click one time, got the sample, and you can see that now my brush actually shows me what it would look like if I were to use the brush right here. So if I was at the tip of the nose, it would have this dark image because that's where it was copying from, because I told it that's where it would copy from. So as I click right here where that hair is, you saw right as I was doing it, I'll do it one more time, you have that little plus sign that shows up. That's Photoshop's way of saying this is where we're copying from. You can see as I move the brush away, it's perfect. That little black hair, that little hair is gone, that little nose hair, everything is perfect. Now there's lots of other things we could do with this young man. He's got some of these, maybe what you would call unsightly hairs coming out of this area of his neck. We can use another tool for that as well. I'm going to click and hold where the spot healing brush is, and I'm going to click on the healing brush tool. The healing brush tool works a lot like the clone stamp tool and a lot like the healing brush tool. What it does is it requires us to sample an area of the image, then it copies that over to another area of the image, but then seeks to try and blend it in. I also want to mention that we need to make sure that we still have sample current and below or all layers up here for all of these tools. Otherwise it will only be just sampling the empty pixels. So what I need to do now is I need to sample an area that's a lot like this area that I would be pasting over. So I've got this shadowed area inside the neck area. I'm just going to come over here and just click with my alternate key held down. And then I'm going to reduce the size of the brush using my left square bracket, and I'll just follow that line. As soon as I let go, Photoshop does its best. It samples the pixels, determines what it should look like, and it blends in perfectly. I'll do the same thing with this over here. Notice we've got that little plus sign that tells us where it's copying from. That's a benefit for us. If we end up with maybe it's sampling over here where this guy's shirt is, we may find that we've got some serious problems as it starts to copy over some of that area of the shirt. I'm going to go ahead and leave this here because that's a permanent part of this person's face. And I'm going to use the shortcut Command 0 to bring this document to where we can see it in full. We could tell as we look at this image that we've got a lot of areas that we could fix up with the blemish removal. Really do a good job of fixing this guy up. That's one of the things with Photoshop is it's like any work of art. Eventually you just got to say, all right, I'm done. But you can see in very short order, we can get rid of all of the blemishes on this guy's face and make it just perfect for us. All right, that's the Media Maker. Glad you could join us.